Hello everybody, welcome to this next presentation. It's my pleasure to introduce Felice from Imperial College London, who's going to talk on a new era of wearables, which sounds very interesting. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Felice, and I'll come back at the end to take any questions. Do please post your questions in the sidebar. Okay, over to you, Felice.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you very much to TechBlick in general for inviting me to give this talk. So I'm going to give some updates on the areas of wearable electronics with graphene and 2D materials and some of the latest results that we achieved at Imperial College. So I'm sure you all know about the wearables and devices that could be and can be somehow essentially incorporated with either garments or can be used to monitor some specific body parameters or convey information, for example, from the environment. One of the first devices, for example, is a kind of smartwatch type of device that looks like this. However, for example, surveys from Gartner, saying something here. Well, no, came back. So from Gartner found out that around 30% of the wearable devices that are used at the moment are disposed of after 6 months, roughly. So this means that people lose interest with them, and also they don't really turn out to be essentially of the use they expected to have, because they are mostly similar to watches. They have some additional features, but roughly they're not really wearable. They're more similar to rigid devices. And this is one of the big problems that wearable devices face at the moment. If you look at the availability of wearables, they are neither breathable nor stretchable. They're just a mix of interconnections, rigid sensors or transistor, light-emitting devices, but mostly similar to watches with some additional bits. So the key challenge is that the real wearable devices could be devices that actually could have very strong impact in our lives. So for example, they could, teach us, for example, to play piano, or introduce some additional skills, for example, to our movement. For example, make our arms stronger, like, for example, some prosthetics, or giving us, for example, specific information on, body parameters, but also directing our daily life in taking care, for example, of specific remote patients that are vulnerable. This is becoming extremely important if you think about it after the pandemic. The pandemic really exposed the need for remote care of patients that can't really go to the hospitals at the moment. So this is really increasing in terms of demand of what you need to have, and actually is becoming pretty poor from the response side of what wearables really can offer. The problem is that the wearable technology that we have at the moment really tried to move over from the concept of the 50s. On the left-hand side, you see an image of what in the 50s was thought to be a wearable system or a wearable device. And can you still hear me? Because I see that things are appearing on the screen. I hope you can.
Yes, we can still hear you, Felice. It's fine.
Yeah, okay. So, and on the right-hand side instead, you see the status of some of the most advanced wearable devices incorporated with textiles. It's an interconnection of some rigid electronics with wires, with some specific garments. So at the moment, if we want to have some advanced monitoring of devices where some of the electronics is done in the wearable part, the rigid electronics is still somehow dominant. And we need to deal with it when we then to try and make these devices compliant with, for example, all the wearable requirements. Indeed, wearable devices, they need to go beyond the standard flexible electronics. So for example, they need to definitely be stretchable. They need to have low power, or dissipate low power, or consume low power. They need to be conformable with the body. Breathability also is an extremely important feature that normally flexible electronics hasn't really enabled. They need to ideally be easy to integrate with clothes, because in one end, you want them to be weavable or somehow, in the form of a textile form factor. And also washability is becoming extremely important. So this could be only enabled if we really have new materials that allow you to do that. We know that textile is already a great material. In fact, textile, it's already made to